Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, another video, this time for Werewolves, starring Frank Grillo. Frank Grillo is an actor I like. I've enjoyed him in most of the stuff I've seen him in. He's usually like more of a bit player, but he is a good actor. He is more of like a B-level action star and stuff than even a B-level actor, but he's good at what he does. There was a movie I remember watching like last year, I think it was, with him and Mel Gibson. I think Mel Gibson was in it. It was like a time travel movie. That one was really good. In terms of Werewolves, it's a B movie, clearly. If you've seen the preview for it, you know what you're getting into if you see this flick. It's a movie about a supermoon that appears one day, and everybody on the planet who gets exposed to it or gets hit by the moonlight turns into a werewolf. That's it. Simple, very simple plot, and another supermoon is coming up, and it's going to turn a bunch of people again, and if you're out in the moonlight, you're going to turn into a werewolf, and a bunch of people are, like, protecting their homes and shit like that, and you got, like, this one dude who's, like, a next-door neighbor who's, like, this kind of take on, like, a crazy, like, Trump extremist type person or something, who's like, I'm going to defend my home, hoorah, hoorah, you know, like, go America, ah, that kind of thing, but, yeah, and you got Frank Grillo, who's like next door protecting his brother's family, which I'm not sure why they added that. Why they just make it his family, just simplify it. I don't really see why they made it to where he's like an uncle or whatever who's taking care of the family. I don't know, it just seemed kind of pointless to me. But whatever. In terms of the acting performances, Frank Grillo is good here. I will say, because of the ridiculousness of this plot and because it is a obvious B flick, that Frank Grillo does not have the charisma to be great in this movie. Only because Frank Grillo is more of a straightforward like action guy. Him trying to be like in like more of a silly B movie type film like this, I don't think it's so much his element. So he doesn't have the charisma of someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like if you put Schwarzenegger in a movie like this, he would totally sell it. It would be like just a goofy, enormously fun, hilarious time. Like, hey, Werewolf, I'm going to kill you. You're dominated. You know, that kind of shit. That would be hilarious for this type of movie. Frank Grillo doesn't have the charisma to do those types of one-liners and stuff. So when they do give him some in this movie, he does a good job with it, but he's not great. He doesn't really have the charisma to go that far with it as a leading man. Like, he works really good in something like The Purge. Like the Purge movies when he's the star, he works in those because they're more just straightforward action movies. But these more kind of goofy action movies, like B flicks like this, he's kind of out of his element. You do feel it, but overall he is good in the film. Special effects for the werewolves. I've heard some people call them goofy. I liked it. I thought they looked good. There is the occasional CGI every now and then for the transformations, and it does every now and then you get kind of a dodgy shot, but for the most part, even the CGI looks fine for a lower budget B flick like this. And I like how some of the werewolves, when they transform, because of the type of human that they were, they have some kind of like identifying clothing or whatever on. Like you got one who's like kind of looks like a biker as a werewolf with piercings in and like a kind of a vest. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, and overall, I'd give this like a 2.5 out of 4. This was a decent movie. It was a decent watch. I liked it. I didn't love it. Like it would be like a rental. I'd pick it up if I found it for cheap, like $5 or $8 easily. What stops this from kind of being like a good or really good B movie? First of all, the ending is just way too rushed and anticlimactic. It just kind of cuts off and it's over. Like Frank Grillo at the end turns himself into a werewolf so he can combat the next door neighbor, the crazy military guy who's also become a werewolf, who's trying to break in on his brother's family. And his brother is dead in the movie, and he's pretty much taking care of his family out of, like, I guess, you know, family obligations or whatever. But, so he turns himself into a werewolf so he can fight the other werewolf. And it's like the effects they're good. For a B flick, they're good. But the fight is over too quick, and you can tell they just didn't have the budget to like do more with the actual werewolf fight, which is you do kind of feel that. And then it gets to the point where Frank Grillo busts in the house as a werewolf, and he's about to kill his, I guess, his dead brother's wife, and he's about to kill her, and she has a shotgun, and she has a chance to like shoot him in the head, and instead she like shoots out a board or whatever on the wall so some sunlight can come in. As soon as sunlight hits him, when the moonlight is no longer out, he pretty much turns directly back into a human, and then it just cuts off and it's over. Too quick. Like, it feels like deliberately like they kept Frank Grillo alive for the movie, for the ending, so in case they had a sequel they could bring him back. I get it, they're thinking franchise, but at the same time, for this movie taken as a one-off or taken, as the film it is, it would have made more sense and been more poetic if he died at the end, really. If she had just shot him in the face and had to kill him, and then it was her and the little girl at the end, because she has a daughter in the movie too. It would have been her and the little girl at the end, like hugging each other or whatever, and him like having sacrificed himself to, save the family. That would have been more poetic and been stronger dramatically for a B flick like this. Because he survives at the end, it robs the movie of an ending like oomph. Instead, it kind of goes out on a whimper. It just kind of cuts off. That does kind of hurt it. Lou Diamond Phillips is in here. He becomes a werewolf as well. He's like working on this scientist team or whatever, or with the scientist team, so he can like come up with a cure. And the cure like backfires, and the werewolves get loose. And of course, because of the budget, there's not that many military guards in the place, and so yeah, I can kind of let that go. But at the same time, Lou Diamond Phillips gets exposed to the moonlight, and he becomes a werewolf, and then he just gets left behind and disappears. I didn't really get that. Like, you could have done more with him, especially since he was kind of like the leader of the thing. I felt like he was kind of underused. But besides that, like, you got this chick or whatever who's like a scientist there, and she teams up with Frank Grillo and tries to help him like make it back to his family. And at the same time, yes, this movie is a direct copy of the first Purge with a little bit of like Purge anarchy mixed in. It is, but at the same time, it's a B movie, so I don't really mind it copying, even though it's copying from another B movie. So it's not really that bothersome to me. But yeah, it is a Purge ripoff, but that's fine. It's a B flick. Like, killer werewolves, come on, people. Another thing that hurts this movie is that it is a B movie, and there's two types of B movies normally. B movies that know they're B movies, and B movies that don't know they're B movies. This is a B flick that doesn't know it's a B flick. It takes itself too seriously, which kind of hurts it. Like, this movie would have been worked much better if it was more in on the joke of how ridiculous this situation is, and just been silly about it, and had Frank Grillo as like an over-the-top werewolf slayer, just like trying to make it through the city to get back to his family. That would have been much better. As it is, there's not that much action in it for the first part of it, but when the action does kick in, we actually do get some action. It is fairly good for a B flick with a modest budget. It is fairly good. But like I was saying about the girl he teams up with or whatever, she just kind of gets taken like right before the climax, before Frank Grillo makes it back to his family. Like, they're getting ready to get in the vehicle or whatever and drive off together to head there, and all at once a werewolf hand comes down and grabs her by the head and like pulls her away. And so you just, like, I didn't think she was dead because you don't see the kill on screen, but then he just drives away and she never pops back up. But that was another thing where I'm like, okay, they didn't show her get killed. Maybe she was infected, you know what I'm saying, or something, or maybe she did get away. Like, I think they deliberately didn't show her get killed because in case they can get her back for a sequel. You know what I'm saying? Like, in case they decide to bring her back. That's what it felt like to me. But yeah, as is overall, this was decent. This is a decent B movie. I liked it. I'd pick it up for $5 or $8. It's completely harmless. Looking at the score on IMDb and some of the reviews, like, it has like a 4.8 out of 10, I think, on IMDb, and a lot of the reviews are bad. But you got some people on there who are like, okay, I know what this is. This was decent, or this was all right, or okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm right there with those people. I'm like, I don't understand people giving this like like having a 4.8 on IMDb. I mean, it's a B flick, guys. This was never going to be a legit, like, good, high quality movie. This is an intentionally dumb plot. You're not going to get some high quality standard writing out of this. Like, I guess it's the way I look at movies. I judge stuff for what it is. I'm not watching a movie called Werewolves and thinking I'm going to see Christopher Nolan's Titanic or something, or James Cameron's Titanic, or Christopher Nolan's Inception. Like, I know what this is, okay? So overall, it was decent. I didn't mind it. I liked it. Didn't love it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again.